Why, hello, people. I'm here today to talk to you about a very popular discussion topic right now, which is the AoE meta, which is something that the devs notoriously didn't touch on in the latest dev stream. It's always a point of contention whenever they do like a dev stream or something. You always see the typical comments of like, "Hey, when crossplay?" When cross save? When is it gonna happen? And also one of the big ones that's popped up and it's just becoming more and more prevalent. They get asked this question constantly, and that is, when are you going to quote unquote fix the AoE meta? When are you gonna do something about it? And they haven't answered that question yet. Not sure if they will, because maybe they don't know how to. I've seen some interesting comments about it, and one poignant comment I saw was that the devs can't really do anything about it because they are in a mentality of trying to please everyone at the same time, and there is no solution that is going to make everyone happy, and that's probably true. Also, when it comes to stuff like nerfs, they are so hesitant to do it because whenever they nerf anything at all, there's always like this huge outrage about it in the community, and it's like it's a lose-lose situation sort of thing. But when we see with the Eximus rework as well, that like they're trying to bring some sort of challenge back into the game. They do want to like change things up a bit, but like the Eximus rework was good. It was a step in the right direction, but it does not fix, so to speak, the AoE meta. It is still gonna be meta. It's still gonna be the best way to play, to have these big explodey AoE weapons. The most popular one is probably the Kuvazar, but there are a couple of other common offenders. The Exceltra, the Tenet Envoy, just these, because you want to be able to clear an entire room, right? You want to be able to kill everything in an entire room at the same time. The problem has been a bit exacerbated, especially in Steel Path Survival, with its absolutely absurd spawn rates of enemies. There's so many enemies. So, what you want is something like this. A weapon that does these huge explosions. Massive explosions. The bigger the better. It used to be the case that you ran melees instead a while ago. A while ago we had a melee meta. They moved away from that because a lot of people kind of, I was one of them, thought that like the melee meta was boring. You just spam E. Weapon animations are too fast. You can't even really see what's going on. And all melee weapons sort of play the same. Well, maybe you'll do like a heavy attack build instead of a combo-based build. But if you're... That's about it. That's the variation you're going to see. Now the problem with this meta compared to previous metas is like, melee damage is still good. Single target damage is still good. As you can see here. If I use like a Euphona Prime, like I can still do solid single target damage to where I can like take out stuff on Steel Path. But if I use like a big room explodey thing, then I can take out 50 enemies at the same time instead of one enemy at the same time. And that's sort of like the heart of the problem. And that's why I'm going to talk about the solution. I've prefaced my solution with, pointing out all of these things. Now, I'm also going to preface the solution by saying you're not going to like it. You're not going to like what I have to say. it's not going to be popular. But hear me out. Hear me out, people. The thing about melee weapons is that you have to get close to the enemies to kill them. You can't kill them from afar. That is, in a sense, a drawback. The thing about single target weapons, like this here Euphona Prime, is that you can only hit one enemy at a time. So even if the damage would be better than a AoE weapon, it has a drawback. It doesn't hit multiple targets, it only hits a single target. AoE weapons, on the other hand, currently have the issue that they do not have any drawbacks. That's the problem. If you have primed sure-footed, then you can't get knocked back, like the self-stagger. Also, if you have like a Warframe that can make itself status immune. So you can remove sort of the one drawback that AoE weapons potentially could have. This problem, unfortunately, won't be solved until AoE weapons start getting drawbacks. There has to be some sort of trade-off where you get the big damage, you get the ability to clear rooms, but you do it at a price. There is a cost to using it. Oh, he's rolling. He didn't roll fast enough. See, because all of this is, it's utterly slow. Now I'll just go back to doing this. So here's how you fix it. Here is how you solve the problem of the AoE meta in one fell swoop. And you're not gonna like it, but here's how you do it. You take back self-damage. You put self-damage back in the game. That's it. That's how you do it. That is the drawback that AoE weapons need to have, so that it comes at a cost. So you can't just walk up to an enemy and do this, because then you're gonna die, because you can't shoot at the ground while you are standing next to it. If you do, you gotta switch to your single target weapon. And that used to be the case. I used to run with an Exceltra. Many times I would bullet jump and I would glide through the air and I would like shoot as I was landing and I would kill myself. But you know what happened after a while? I stopped doing that. I started picking my shots. I knew what was gonna happen, I knew when it was gonna happen, I learned how to avoid it. But I had to get better, I had to play more skillfully. Which I did. I don't have to do that anymore. All I have to do is slap on prime sure-footed and I'm fine. And I can just aim at the ground and I can explode everything around me. And I don't even have to think about what I'm doing. Any sort of change that sort of promotes skillful play and promotes thinking about how you're playing and promotes like just, you know, being tactical about things and learning how to use the game systems, I think is usually positive. It makes the game more fun. It's the difference between active play and passive play. Now, I know that you are listening to this and you're like, no, fuck no, I don't want self-damage to come back. Well, thing is, we all sort of agree, I think, on the AoE meta being a problem. And it's a problem that's not gonna go away so long as AoE weapons are so much better than everything else. And it's not gonna be fixed by just increasing the damage of single target weapons tenfold. That doesn't fix anything. Partly because it's just power creep, just more big number, and then something else gets a bigger number, and then something else gets a bigger number. Doesn't change anything about how the game is played. And partly because these big AoE explodey weapons, like the Kuvas are already one-shotting things. So, what does it matter if if you're 10 times stronger than a weapon that is already one-shotting things. That doesn't do anything. And I'm not suggesting damage nerfing AoE weapons, because that's just gonna make them feel weak. And I don't think that's the right way of solving the problem. I think they should feel strong. I don't want a meta where AoE weapons just sort of tickle enemies and you have to like empty out 20 shells or something to kill anything. No. They can be strong, but let's just have a risk. Let's just toss in a risk with using them. That you have to pay attention to where you're shooting, and you can actually kill yourself if you use these weapons. Now, obviously, damage numbers nowadays are way higher than they were back when self-damage was removed. And even then it was a problem that you could accidentally one-shot yourself, which can be annoying. And not everyone wants to run with like a bunch of armor and health or be forced to have like tank frames to use AoE weapons. But there's also something else that's in the game now that wasn't in the game back then. And that is the adaptive damage reduction of Kuva Liches and Sisters of Parvos, where the stronger the weapon you shoot them with, the more damage reduction they get. Which is a neat little trick to make sure that they can't be one-shotted. Now you can introduce a system like that for our own weapons as well, so that the self-damage we take scales with, or like the damage reduction basically, that scales with the weapon's damage. So if you have an AoE weapon that doesn't do a whole lot of damage, then you don't get a whole lot of damage reduction. If you have something that does millions and billions of damage, you get a whole lot of damage reduction so that you can't one-shot yourself. But you can still damage yourself. And then people are going to be like, oh, well then Chroma can take advantage of his Vex armor again. Alright, good, then people have a reason to play Chroma again. Because currently no one plays Chroma, because being able to buff himself with Vex armor was kind of the only thing he had going for him. So yeah, sure, give people a reason to once again play Chroma, I don't mind that. That's a price I'm willing to pay for solving this. Because now you'd sort of have a reason to switch between weapons. Now there's going to be situations where you prefer to not use your AoE weapon, and situations where you want to use your AoE weapon. You run tight corridors, you switch to a different weapon. Maybe then you want something like a Soma, where you can just sort of like mow down everything in like these tight quarters. And then when you get out in the open again, it's once again safe to pull out your big cannon. Right? I think that would be fun. Now we'll see. I don't know what the reception of this video is going to be. I don't know if the community is ready to have this conversation yet about bringing self-damage back into the game. But let me know how you feel about it. What do you think about this suggestion? Is this a good idea? Could this work? Should we pitch this collectively? Is bringing back self-damage the solution? Let me know your thoughts, people. And as always, I will see you guys again tomorrow for something completely different.